Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. Welcome Donyell Malen to Aston Villa. A huge signing for Aston Villa, a player that needed to come in the summer. He didn't. We needed a DRB replacement, and Donyell Malen at Villa is going to make us a completely different outfit going forward, covering a vast amount of positions and offering some key attributes what this Aston Villa side lacks. So what we're going to do on this episode, we're going to go in depth and take a tactical look at where Donyell Malen fits into the Aston Villa system. And I've brought out the big gun. I brought out Earl. Earl's going to decipher Donyell Malen with me, and we're going to have a nice little chat about him. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, good to be back on the pod, and glad we've made a signing, and hopefully it's a bit of a catalyst for the second half of the season for us.
Yeah, definitely. So, Villa fans, if you are buzzing about Donyell Malen signing for Aston Villa, let's have a light target. And it's a signing, it's an attacking signing. I think as signings go, strikers are always the most exciting, attacking players, midfielders, create, and then as you get towards goalkeepers, like no one's bothered, are they? So, being as we've got an attacker in, let's try and get a light target of 1,100 for the signing of Donyell Malen. So, Earl, on a whole, how are you feeling about Marlon as a profile of player coming to Aston Villa?
Yeah, I think Marlon is a player that I've seen quite a lot of, to be honest. We became aware of him when he was at PSV originally, part of quite an exciting PSV team, playing as a winger or a striker. There's quite a few players from that team that went on to do quite well, like Cody Gakpo, Dumfries, Noni Madueke, and then he got his move to Dortmund, another team that I watched quite a lot, to be fair. So yeah, he's a player that I've seen quite a lot of. And in terms of profile, he kind of fits the mold of that kind of versatile forward we keep hearing mentioned in all the links and that kind of thing. But yeah, he can really play across the whole of the front line, on the left, on the right, or up top. But yeah, in terms of profile, I'd say his best position's probably just off the striker, in what Villa fans would probably call the DRB role. But I'd say the difference with that is, whereas DRB was kind of your square peg, round hole, he was kind of adjusting to that position. It wasn't something that he was used to. I'd say Marlon is more of a player who's a like for like and come in, and that's probably his best position.
Yeah, and you, as always, have done a wonderful graphic, and I think you can really sense the correct position for him to be starting in Aston Villa. I mean, the key one are sort of like the non-penalty goals over the course of a 90. I think that's absolutely huge. So just break us down this graphic that you've done on Donyell Malen.
Yeah, so the data behind this graphic here is just based on this season so far, 24-25. And what it is, it's a percentile rank comparison versus players in similar positions. So in this case, I'm looking at attacking midfielders and wingers. So basically what we do is take all those attacking midfielders and wingers, basically assign them a rank between 1 and 99, with 99 being the best. If you've got a percentile rank of, let's say, 80, it means you're better than 80% of attacking midfielders and wingers in that particular stat. So I've taken the stats that I think are relevant for the position and then put them on this radar chart. It's essentially just a good way to visualize what kind of player this is and what they do when they have the ball.
Yeah, I think it's really good. So what are the big things that, when you're looking at this type of graphic, if fans that are not aware of what to be looking for, what should we be looking at right here?
Yeah, well, I've kind of broken it down into sections, kind of. So if you start at the top, moving clockwise, I've got shooting stats first of all. So you've got your non-penalty goals per 90 minutes. non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes, and then shots per touch. So for those 3 stats, you can clearly see he's kind of in your excellent category for those areas. Non-penalty goals, obviously, he scores goals, simple as. Your expected goals kind of indicates the quality of chances that he's getting. So for me, that also indicates he's getting in good positions to score as well if he's getting these high quality chances. And then the last one that I like as well, as you know, is shots. So he's he's taking a lot of shots, which is always good to see for me from a forward.
Yeah, and it's something that I think Maatsen, well, both played at Dortmund. Maatsen has been showing the way recently, hasn't he? Shooting from distance. We saw it against West Ham. He had 2 shots from distance. One ended up ricocheting, and we were able to get a goal with Onana. So it shows what shooting from distance can do then. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to show where he can play, and we'll touch on where we both feel is going to be his strongest position. Now, what I've been able to do on this graphic is show you the players that currently play for Villa in a specific position, roughly, and then where Marlon can play as well. I've done a lot of research on Marlon, and Unai Emery has spoke about wanting players to be versatile. That's the number one thing, and I think it is quite important from a side that, we've seen McGinn being able to play across a vast amount of positions. And sometimes you'll say, okay, that's his better position, but he's maybe not so good there, but he can do that position. But I think the big thing with Marlon is that he can play across that front line, which is really important because, if Ramsey's injured, it means that sort of like we have to take Rodgers and put him there, and then Tielemans has to, and I think we're not as solid when we move around that forward line. I think rotation within the double pivot is perfect, really. But, that attacking position, I think, is something that we really need to lock in on. So for me personally, I feel like Marlon's position at Villa currently would be off Ollie Watkins or off John Duran. I think that's where he can really do the damage. I think on the right-hand side, I think he's good, and I think I can show you some images in a second of, what he can do out wide. But I think it's that locking in that threat behind Watkins, which is vitally important. And I think it would free up Rodgers to have a little bit more space. I like Rodgers on the left because I think he's got more space to move around. I think when he's off Watkins, it's sometimes difficult for him to find that space. So I think Marlon in behind the striker is going to be a massive, massive threat. Do you agree, or do you think he's better suited elsewhere?
No, I think what you just said as well will help to unlock Leon Bailey as well, in the same ways what you've just discussed. Really having, we saw it at times last season with Diaby and Bailey in the same lineup. Having Marlon in front and making those runs behind just kind of stretches the defense a bit more vertically, and then opens up that space a little bit more for Leon Bailey, who is a lot better when he has that time and space. You see often this season he gets kind of double teamed quite often, and yeah, just think having that extra runner in behind could open things up a little bit more for Bailey as well.
Yeah, and I think what highlighted this more to me as well was another one of your wonderful graphics that you designed. And you can really see that he's completely different to Bailey. You're looking at where Marlon's strengths are to where Diaby's strengths are. It's not like for like this. It's not sort of Bailey's going to be out the team and Marlon's going to take his position. I don't think it's going to be that case at all. So, what do you look at this graphic and see the difference between the two?
Yeah, well, as we talked about before on the last one, Marlon's got the good shooting stats and the goals per game and that sort of thing. And we know Bailey's kind of been off the boil a little bit at the start of this season. So it's kind of that finishing ability. Whereas you can see Towards the right-hand side of the radar there, we've got kind of the passing and the creative stats. And Marlon's he has been good creatively and assist-wise in the past, but kind of this season and last season as well, his assist numbers kind of fell off a little bit. So that's kind of the major difference there that you can see, is Bailey's kind of been a lot more creative than what Marlon has been. In terms of you've got your progressive passes, and I've done a lot of these per touch, just as a way to kind of normalize things a little bit more. Because if you think about, you might have, so if you have two players who both have like 5 progressive passes per game, they can look the same on the face of things. But if one has 100 touches and the other has 60 touches, well, the guy who's made 5 progressive passes in 60 touches is obviously a lot more creative than the other guy. So yeah, just for me shows that Bailey has been a lot more progressive with his passing. Does make a lot more on the right-hand side there, that is passes and crosses into the penalty area. So your Marlon's not really playing those passes into the penalty area. He's more dribbling the ball into the penalty area. And those kind of stats you can see at the bottom of the graph are quite similar between Bailey and Marlon in terms of the dribbling. So you've got carries into the penalty area, successful take-ons, and progressive carries. Now, what's different as well about their dribbling, the one following on from there, you've got progressive carrying distance per carry. And what this shows is kind of how far the player is dribbling when they're actually making these progressive carries. So with Bailey being having a higher number for this stat, it's showing that he's actually kind of carrying the ball further when he's dribbling, compared to Marlon, who's has the similar number of progressive carries, but he's actually not carrying the ball as far. So again, that's another indicator that he's more of a final third player. Like quick dribbles, beat a man and get a shot off, rather than kind of your build-up play. You might think like Morgan Rogers with his long dribbles. Yeah, Marlon's a lot more of a quick dribble, get a shot off kind of player.
Yeah, I think it's a great comparison and great to just look at what different profiles of player can offer. And I think why I get really excited about this Marlon signing is it feels very much, sometimes you can make a signing and it's a bit like, well, where's he going to play, or what's he going to do, or what's he going to offer to Villa? This Marlon signing, it's like I can see what he's being brought in to do, which is absolutely massive. So what I've done now is I found a number of images of things that I like, and I think that he will be able to help Villa with. And note that a lot of these are through the center of the pitch as well. So we've got the first thing that I really like from him, that he's able to use his pace and he's able to run in behind. So remember, sort of like we can touch on the Diaby. Remember Diaby and Watkins both pressing together, both running in behind together. I think this is an added threat, and I think the big thing about the signing is it's an added weapon for Villa. It's an added thing for the opposition to have to think about. Oh, Watkins can run him, Marlon can run him, Bailey can run him behind. Oh, we've got a player that we need to now watch at the edge of the box. We need to watch his crosses. So it's loads of different things. But I actually feel like there's a bit of an unpredictability about him as well, which makes him, an even bigger weapon for Villa. Again, we can see him through on goal in the center of the pitch. If anyone can find this little highlight reel on YouTube, it was on the Dortmund channel, and it shows all his goals and assists, and it's really good to look through. So you can probably see that some of the images have got 6 assists, 3 assists. Some will have like 13, 14 in a second. But again, centrally, driving forward, being able to beat that defensive line. We can see him here as well, drifting towards that right-hand side, peeling off, offering a threat through there. And every single one of these images has an end product, whether it's going to be an assist or a goal. So he will get the assist from this moment where he's been able to drift out wide as well. Another big one that I think is absolutely massive is his instinctive nature in the box as well. Getting on the end of things, finding the right position, wanting to put the ball in the back of the net. That is a massive threat for Villa as well. And again, you can see him here finding space. He's got a tap in, We want to see players getting tap-ins because it shows that they're in a really good position. But I would probably say this is the biggest attribute that I think I want to see him do at Aston Villa. Inside the 18-yard box, bodies around him, getting shots off, being a threat, taking players on. And then we've got another one here where he's inside the 18-yard box, a massive threat, gets the shot off, ends up going in the top corner. So all of these areas, quite central, are the areas that I really want to see him hone in at Aston Villa. And then playing on that right-hand side, we've got end product, getting the ball in the box. He's got the ability to pick out a player. And then we can see him on the left-hand side being able to pick out a player, put the cross in. So within these pictures are a real package of all of the areas that he can influence this Aston Villa side. So, Earl, what area would you say most gets you excited for seeing Marlon in a Villa shirt?
I think the most exciting thing about Villa last season for me was counter attacks. I don't know if it's just me, but it's just an exciting aspect of the game, really, when you've got you break on a team and running in behind. So he does bring that, but I get a lot of questions. Kind of, can he break down a low block? This is a low block, and I think it's probably an underrated aspect that I think he will actually help us as well. Like we mentioned before, he's willing to shoot and take shots, and I think that's just such an underrated aspect of actually breaking down the low block, is just having that willingness to shoot, and then the other team knows you've got a player who's willing to shoot from outside the box, inside the box as well. It just kind of draws the other team out of position. Someone who's going to make those runs, occupy defenders, free up space for other people, and then just the tap-ins, like you said as well. It's such an underrated part of football. It's not, everyone loves the players who go on, winding runs and shots from distance and these sorts of things, but tapping goals are just underrated sometimes, and that's what he can do. How many times we have a ball fizzed across the box and there's no one at the back post? So I think he'll bring that and replace some of the goals we've lost, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about shooting from distance, we spoke a bit about how he can play with Ollie Watkins. How do you think he would play with John Duran?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think with Duran, I think his hold-up play is getting a lot better, and he's quite good in the air as well. So having someone who's able to kind of run off that, the hold-up and maybe put a ball up to Duran and he flicks on that and those sorts of things. I think he could work quite well with Duran, yeah.
And then finally, to end on, what would your message be to anyone that's saying that he's inconsistent, that he's not had a great season? What would your response be to that type of talk?
Yeah, I mean, you could view him as inconsistent, but I mean, there's always reasons for these sorts of things. So he's not really been in the team for Dortmund this season, making substitute appearances. I think he averages about 40 minutes a game this season. So, I mean, if he was the complete package at the end of the day, we probably wouldn't be signing him. But yeah, the positive for me is obviously Unai Emery, a coach who's known for kind of getting the best out of these players. I think under Emery, he's currently, you wouldn't say he's a complete player, but I think under Emery you can get closer to becoming more complete. So yeah, I mean, new signing, you have to back him, don't you?
You do. I mean, we've highlighted a lot of the areas that he excels in. He's played a fantastic game this season already against Real Madrid. And I think that's another exciting thing about a new signing coming to Villa. It's that you think you know the player, but you really don't until Emery sort of molds his vision of what he wants to do to that player. Sort of what he's been able to do to Morgan Rogers in a year. What can he do to Marlon quickly, but also over the course of the season and then going into next season as well. So, yeah, I think it's really exciting. It's an exciting signing, and I just can't wait to see him play, really. So, cheers for coming on, mate. It's been great having you back on and chatting about Marlon, a new signing, and hopefully there's a couple of more to come.
Yeah, I think we've got a few more in the works, so we'll see how those develop. And yeah, it's kind of interesting as well. It's kind of trying to think how they'll all interlink and work together, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of good to try and get in the mind of Monchi and Emery. If you can even get like 1% of their mindset and outlook and what they're trying to do, then you're on to a winner, really. But yeah, cheers for coming on, everyone. Thank you. If you are buzzing that Marlon has signed, make sure you're hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hopefully you've sort of gauged where he could play, a lot of information about Marlon, of what type of player he is as well. So thanks everyone for watching. Up the Villa.